This will be the third session conducted jointly by Param Vedanta and the School of Ancient Wisdom. We are doing a systematic introduction to the whole topic of Vedanta. Today, the topic will be on Upasana. Upasana, as will be explained by the speaker, Mrs. Rama Gopalakrishna, is one of the most wonderful techniques available to be able to control our mind. Our mind is the greatest gift that we have. There is an Upanishad which says, Mana eva manushyanam karana bandha mokshay. The mind is the cause of bondage. The same mind can be the cause of freedom also. And therefore, through Upasana, through various techniques which Madam Rama Gopalakrishna will be explaining to us, you will learn certain techniques so that you are the master of your mind. You have your mind available for you when you want it, for however long. So we will be listening to what is called a sadhana. A sadhana is a technique that will make you eligible for spiritual knowledge. We have one more topic, and that topic is about a beautiful mantra recommended before we have food. This is called the Annapurneshwari mantra, again, which will be very nicely explained to you. And we will have the significance. To speak to us today, we are fortunate to have Mrs. Rama Gopalakrishna. After her graduation in science, she did a post-graduation and MA degree in Sanskrit. She is an ardent disciple of Swami Shankara Bharati, and she's part of Vedanta Bharati. She has been trained in various traditional shlokas of Adi Shankara, which she's freely propagating to large groups of people on the correct chanting and enunciation of various shlokas, mantras. She's also a teacher of Vedanta. Both she and her husband are widely traveled all over the world, and they're currently located in Bangalore. Rama, please take over on this topic of Upasana as well as that beautiful mantra Annapurneshwari.
Please, everybody, keep your microphones muted while the faculty is speaking, and don't ask questions in between. But you are welcome to put all your queries in the chat box. And at the end of the program, when there's question time, you may freely ask your doubts, and the speaker will clarify them. Thank you very much.
Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Pranams to all the Acharyas and my Gurus. Hari Om and good evening to you all. Today I will be presenting a talk on Annapurna Tattvam and Upasana Yoga. I will be covering the following topics: Annapurna Tattvam, goal of life, 3 sadhana yogas, Ashtanga Yoga, nature of the mind, the disciplines and the types of meditations prescribed, the thought patterns and its effects on personality, the role of meditation in conditioning the body, speech and mind, eligibility for self-realization and liberation from the bondage of samsara. Let us see Annapurna Tattvam. Annapurna is the incarnation of Parvati, who is one of the numerous forms of Shakti. In Sanskrit, Anna means food, Purna means filled completely. In Hinduism, Annapurna is a popular deity and holds a special place because food is considered sacred. Hindus believe that when Annapurna blesses the food, it is converted into Amrita, the nectar of immortality. People offer prayers for her to bless the food and its preparation in the kitchen. Without proper nourishment, one lacks physical health and mental health, which affects their spiritual growth. Those who cook are seen as providing energy that fuels the spiritual journey. Annapurna is said to have appeared on the Akshaya Tritiya day. Akshaya means never diminishing and is ever full. Let us see the Annapurna shloka. Annapurne Sadapurne Shankara Prana Vallabhe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Bhikshandehi Cha Parvati. When Mother Annapurna is worshipped, She blesses her children with nourishment beyond the gross material things that they desire. She blesses them with the attainment of perfection in wisdom and renunciation. Before partaking of any meal, a devotee should offer her food with this prayer. O Mother Annapurna, you are always full, complete, and perfect. You are the energy of the beloved Lord Shiva. For attainment of perfection in wisdom and renunciation, please bless us with nourishment. Now, as you see in the next slide, a legend about Annapurna it goes like this. In a conversation with Parvati, while playing the game of dice, Shiva negated the importance of food, citing it as a cosmic illusion. Hearing this, Parvati, the manifestation of universal Shakti, got upset. In order to teach him that food is an integral part of life, she disappeared from the earth with all the sources of food and nourishment. Finally, she realized the importance of food. She begged for food from her and she reappeared as Annapurna and served him the food. Now, as you see in the next slide, let us see the aspects of food. Food is one of the basic necessities of life, and it is no wonder we say Annam Brahma. Food is God and body is called Annamaya Kosha, that is gross body. In Hinduism, eating is a holy ritual. It is a yajna or a sacrifice. It is considered medicine for the illness of ignorance. Wastage and misuse of food is an insult to its source. The gross part of the food consumed is converted into human waste, subtle part as the blood and flesh, and the subtlest part as the mind. And the next slide is, then what should be our prayers? Ancient spiritual masters were wise and always asked for the best. Their goal was set on the highest level of spiritual consciousness. They prayed the Divine Mother to bless on the highest level of spiritual consciousness. They also prayed Divine Mother to bless with nothing less than the appropriate. Give that as food and those qualities that will make one divine. Also, perfection in the actions, divine knowledge of the absolute truth, and non-attachment towards worldly affairs. This shloka that is chanted before meals maintain the same vision of those spiritual masters. It has been taken from the Annapurna Ashtakam attributed to Adi Shankaracharya. The wisdom Mother gives is the understanding that giving is the true spirituality. She teaches that renunciation will allow us to remain in tranquility in all circumstances of life. Now let me go to Upasana Yoga. Our scriptures place dharma, artha, kama, the material accomplishments as incidental goals. Moksha, the spiritual accomplishment, as the ultimate and primary goal of life, the Parama Purushartha. All the human accomplishment should culminate in moksha or self-realization. Without moksha, the human life is incomplete. Our scriptures have given us several religious and spiritual practices. They are disciplines or sadhanas like subjective or objective meditations, and which are to be followed regularly. Sadhana is a course of discipline that helps to accomplish a goal. The goal is called a sadhyam, and those who practice are called sadhakas. Sadhaka through sadhana should attain sadhyam to become a siddha. To siddha is the journey to accomplish human goals. The control over quality and quantity is the key in these disciplines. One of the most important disciplines prescribed is upasana or dhyanam, as called by Patanjali Maharshi. The word upasana literally means staying, sitting, near or being in the proximity of God, mentally, physically. That is Ishvara Upavasam or Ishvara Upaasana. Adi Shankaracharya refers to this upasana as Samadhi Yoga. It is this upasana yoga is present in upasana portion of the Veda. And this entire course of sadhana is broadly classified into 3 levels for the convenience of practice and understanding. Each level is called a yoga. The word yoga means with that which connects the sadhaka to sadhyam. The word yoga is derived from the root yuj, meaning to combine or to unite, which is oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma. Patanjali Muni defines yoga as chitta vritti nirodha, disciplining or regulating the thought pattern. Yoga is cessation of modifications of the mind or calming the wandering mind. Mind is the most powerful instrument to accomplish all the activities and goals of life. It has the nature of generating continuous thoughts which are both voluntary and involuntary. The involuntary thoughts distract the mind and often generate disturbing emotions. Ashtanga Yoga is a scheme by which one is aware of this problem and takes steps to handle them. The 3 sadhana yogas are Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Gnana Yoga. These yogas are the steps of a staircase, climbing every step to attain moksha or the ultimate goal. We learnt about Karma Yoga in the previous session. Karma Yoga is a sahakari sadhanam or a supplementary means for the other 2 yogas. It is action done with Ishvara Arpana Bhava and accepting the results as Ishvara Prasadaha. Karma Yoga purifies the mind by diluting raga and dvesha, that is, likes and dislikes. Orientation of any action should be inner growth along with material accomplishments. This Chitta Shuddhi is essential for Upasana Yoga and the next step, Gnana Yoga. Now let us see a bit about Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is, as the very word indicates, has 8 limbs, which are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. The yamas are ethical rules or moral imperatives. The 5 yamas are Ahimsa, non-violence, Satyam, truthfulness, Asteyam, not stealing, Brahmacharya, celibacy, and Aparigraha, non-possessiveness. The yamas are the virtuous habits and observances. It starts with Shaucha, purity of mind, speech, and body, Santoshaha, contentment, Tapas, austerity, Swadhyaya, study of Vedas and scriptures, and Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the Lord. These 10 Yama, Niyama values and the remaining Shadanga Yoga will aid spiritual growth. Even though the purpose of Ashtanga Yoga and Upasana Yoga is mental discipline, these supplementary disciplines are included in them. The 6th chapter of Gita is named Gnana Yoga, but also talks about disciplining the body and the mind. The next, Asanam is the next one. Asana is a posture that can hold for a period of time and stay relaxed. Pranayama is the control of breath. Prana meaning breath. Ayama is restraint or control. Pratyahara is drawing within one's awareness. It is a process of retracting the sensory experiences from the external objects. The 6th chapter of Gita also talks about Ahara, Niyama or Pratyahara for the body, mind and senses. Dharana means concentration or introspective focus and single-pointedness of the mind. Dhyana means contemplation or focusing within. In other words, dhyana is contemplating on whatever dharana has focused on. Patanjali Muni says, Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. That means the thoughts must continue in the same field like a flow of oil, that is taila dharavat, a continuous flow of oil. In Upadesha Sara, Ramana Maharshi says it as Ajadharaya. Now let us see the Samadhi. Samadhi is Samyak Adhiyate, that is meaning putting together that is the body and the mind complex. Merging of the Triputi is seen in Samadhi. Triputi is the triad of action, the act, and the actor. There is no distinction between the meditation, meditator, and the subject of meditation. Samadhi is of two types, Savikalpaka and Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Samadhi with awareness of the surrounding and the world is Savikalpaka Samadhi. Samadhi without the awareness of the surrounding and oneself is Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. It is a state of total self-absorption. Sri Adi Shankaracharya in his Gita Bhashyam mentions that practicing Ashtanga Yoga must be an integral part of Karma Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is an excellent scheme presented by Patanjali for the mind control. Now, what our scriptures say about the body-mind complex? The preparatory steps for meditation are presented by Sri Krishna in the chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. Swami Param says, 5 values of yamas and 5 values of niyamas constitute Bahiranga Sadhanani, external instruments. 8 Antaranga Sadhanani, the internal instruments, are specific steps which are to be taken care of before meditation. They are Desha, Kala, Asana, Deha Sthitihi, Pranayama, Shama, Dhamma, and the intellect. Once involuntary thoughts are removed, several toxic emotions like habitual worry, anxiety, depression can be resolved. Upasana Yoga is a personality conditioning program for the accomplishment of all the 4 goals. That is Purushartha Yogyata Sampadanartham, says Swami Param. This is similar to athletes warming up before entering the field. In Kathopanishad, our personality is compared to a good chariot, that is a healthy physical body, an intelligent driver, that is a good intellect, reins firmly held, that is a disciplined mind, and the horses under control, that is a good sense of control, will surely reach his destination, that is moksha. The verse in Kathopanishad goes like this: Vignana Sarathir Yastu Manah Pragrahavan Naraha Svodhanah Paramapnoti Tad Vishnoha Paramam Padam Saha Advanaha Paramapnoti Tad Vishnoha Paramam Padam. That is, the sadhaka attains Vishnu Padam. This means he attains the nature of Brahman. Brahma Swarupam Apnoti. They attain Tad Vishnoha Param Padam. That is moksha, the ultimate goal. Narrowing our discussion to Upasana Yoga, that is meditation. Meditation or Upasana Yoga is a personality conditioning, integrating, toning, and organizing program. Meditation is a generic word stretching from sitting quietly to deep inward focus as practiced in many traditions. The word Upasana primarily means meditation for the mental conditioning and extended to speech and body also. To make mental discipline easier, we progress from the gross to the subtlest. That is, we start controlling the body, speech, senses, and finally the mind. Any meditation program will include physical conditioning also, because body, mind, and speech are interconnected. Therefore, these disciplines become an indirect means for the mental discipline. The scriptures talk about discipline at 3 levels: Kayikam, physical discipline; Vachikam, verbal discipline; Manasam, discipline of the mind. Shastras declare that among these disciplines, discipline of the mind is the most important one. Now let us see the Kayikam aspect. The actions performed through physical personality is Kayikam. A healthy physical body is the basic requisite for achieving anything in life, including moksha. So discipline is needed for the physical body, physical activities, and the dietary habits. Hence the saying, Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. Even in the Upanishads, we have prayers for good health. In Gita, Sri Krishna mentions about the discipline towards food, both in quality and quantity. The Shanti Patha in Upanishads and many prayers are for able physical personality. In the Shanti mantra, Bhadram Karnebhihi Shunuyama Devaha, that there is a particular portion which says Sthiraihi Angaihi. In this prayer, the grace of all Adhisthana Devatas is sought for the fitness of the organs to complete the study of the Upanishad. And it says, may the limbs, speech, prana, ear, and the power of all the senses grow with vigor. Physical exercises, yoga, dietary discipline are some of the ways to keep the body fit. Now, the second one is Vachikam discipline. Vachikam discipline is discipline in speech, which is also known as Vaktapas. Bhagavat Padacharya in Viveka Chudamani points out Yogasya Prathamam Dwaram Vang Nirodhaha Aparigrahaha Nirashacha Nirihacha. That is, Yogasya Prathamam Dwaram is the first step of spiritual pursuit. It is Vang Nirodhaha, that is, inner silence or Maunam. He also prescribes Shama and Dhamma for the mind and sense control. As a part of Vak Tapas, Sri Krishna in the 17th chapter of the Gita talks about observation of 4 parameters. They are Anudvegakaram Vakyam, Satyam, Priyam, and Hitam. The first one is Anudvegakaram Vakyam. All forms of abuse, criticism, blame, denigrations, arguments, or violence. Speech should not hurt anyone. Ahimsa should be practiced at Vachika level. Swami Param says, speech is like a knife. It can hurt and as well help also. The second one is Satyam. Satyam is truthfulness and a stepping stone for the absolute truth. He should sensitize the mind to such an extent that telling a lie should disturb deeply. The pain caused by the lie should be greater than the benefits caused by it. By doing this, the value for truthfulness within is created. Truth in the empirical plane alone will help us to realize Ishvara, the truth at the absolute plane. Every lie takes one farther away from Ishvara. Hence the prayer, Asatoma Sadgamaya, meaning, O Lord, take me away from Asat. Then the third parameter is Vaktapas. Vaktapas is Priyam. The speech must be pleasant, soft, polite, and gentle. Avoid using cursing or swearing words. People should only use Mangalakara Shabdam and should not use Amangalakara Shabdam. As we have heard from the prayer, Bhadram Karnebhihi Shunuyama Devaha, meaning, O gods, may we hear auspicious words. The fourth and the final parameter is Hitam. Hitam means whatever is good and beneficial to both the speaker and the listener. Monitoring the quantity and quality of speech is a great discipline. This is accomplished by being alert and deliberate in the speech, in the use of speech. The sense organs are the open gateways through which the external world enters the mind. The world can disturb and pollute the mind in the form of sound, touch, color, taste and smell, that is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha. To stay away from these, avoid unhealthy objects and excess of healthy objects. The third discipline is the Manasam or discipline of the mind. Manas or the mind is the psychological personality which is the subtlest, most important and extremely difficult to handle. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, says Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Mind should be handled like a servant but never be treated like a master. Distracted mind can be concentrated by meditation. All forms of meditations are mental conditioning program. The meditation anchors the mind on a single thought. We can classify all forms of meditations into 4 types depending on the 4 aspects of the mind to be taken care of. They are relaxation of the mind, concentration of the mind, expansion of the mind, and transformation of the mind. To inculcate these aspects in the mind, meditation for every aspect is prescribed. They are relaxation meditation or de-stressing meditation. Swami Param cautions here it is de-stressing, not distressing. We should note that. The second one is focusing meditation or concentration meditation. The third one is expansion meditation or Vishwarupa Dhyanam. The last one is value meditation or transformation meditation. Let us see one by one. Relaxation meditation or de-stressing meditation. Relaxing the mind in particular and relaxing all the other parts of the body is the aim of relaxation meditation. It can be an independent or a preparatory meditation for the other types of meditations. Physically, verbally, and sensorily withdrawing, thereby relaxing at all levels, culminating in the relaxation of the mind is the purpose of this meditation. Nowadays, it is very important as the life is stressful. Therefore, one should learn to sit for a few minutes every day, just relaxing. There are different ways to do this. One method is mentally visualizing beautiful surroundings like gardens, mountains, sky, lakes, or the ocean. Other methods include watching the breath, listening to meditative music, or mantra chanting. The next one is concentration meditation or focusing meditation. In both material and spiritual field, ability to concentrate and the attention span is very important. To develop concentration and attention span, various methods are prescribed. One of them is Ekarupa Ishvara or Ishtadevata Dhyanam, meant for Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata, that is purification of mind and concentration of the mind. The symbol, an idol or a picture chosen, is itself a superior object and dominates the meditative field in which sadhaka has reverence. Upon these symbols, the attributes of the reality are superimposed, but the symbol is as important as the attribute. Upasana is an attempt to go beyond the symbol and meet the Lord in the depths of consciousness. Vedic scriptures prescribe Manasa Puja, Manasa Parayana, and Manasa Japa for developing concentration. Manasam meaning mentally or actions performed using mind as an instrument. Mental worship of the Lord or a favorite deity is called Manasa Puja. This is again of two types, recitation and repetition type. Recitation is mentally reciting the verses and repetition is mentally repeating a mantra or a nama. Repetitively chanting one name of the Lord or a mantra initiated by a guru is called japa. This japa is of three types. They are loud repetition or vachika japaha, whispering repetition or upamshu japaha, mental repetition or manasa japaha. Generally, this is the order to follow. Manasa japa is considered the most effective as seen in this shloka. Uttamam manasam japam, upamshuhu madhyama smritaha, adhamam vachikam prahuhu, sarva mantreshu kovidaha. Chanting a prayer mentally is manasa parayanam. Parayanam is chanting mentally many prayers, while japam is repeating one name or mantra of the Lord. The japas also aids in developing concentration. For example, Sahasranama Parayanam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or Om Namah Shivaya, and others. Being immersed in the thought of the Lord is the aim of any upasana. Even mechanical repetition will bring about a gradual change and slowly the negative traits disappear. Our scriptures prescribe upasana as a nitya karma and a daily activity. Ishwar upasana is considered to be a nitya and a compulsory karma. It is also defined as Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. Here, Saguna Brahma is the Lord with superimposed attributes. In Udeshasara, Ramana Maharshi says 4 stages of japa may be matched with the 4 stages of speech. They are graded from gross to the subtlest. The first one is Tavaha, which is matched with Vaikhari, the speech expressed outwardly. Ucha Japaha, that is Madhyama, speech at mind level. Upamshu Japaha, at Pashanti level of the speech, which is the subtlest form of japa, that is words are not yet formed. Next one is Chittajam, that is Paravak, silent speech or speech in the seed form. Next one is expansion meditation. It is expanding the mind to visualize the totality of the creation, or visualizing creation as a universal form of God, or Aneka Rupa Ishvara Dhyanam. Swami Param calls it as Vishwarupa Ishvara Dhyanam. The idea that Ishvara is the Karanam and the world as an effect is meant for Chitta Vishalata, or expansion of the mind. Ahankara and Mamakara get diluted by expanding the mind to visualize the samashti or totality of creation. The place of an individual is known only when Vyashti or individual is seen from standpoint of samashti or totality. With this meditation, not only one learns to accept the events of life, but also to accept all things and beings in the universe with love and compassion. Awareness of our higher self enables us to remain unaffected by the external influences. The fourth and the very important form of meditation is value meditation or transformation meditation. It brings about the total transformation by changing the thought pattern and refining the mind to inculcate positive values. Our thought pattern determines one's life, journey, and the destiny. As someone nicely said, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Hence, thought is the subtlest seed that determines one's future. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. As you think, so shall you become. The thought pattern are of 2 types, positive thoughts and negative thoughts. The positive thoughts can aid the spiritual growth, and the inner transformation of the thought pattern can change one's life. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna defines positive thoughts as Daivi Sampat and negative thoughts as Asuri Sampat. And also Swami Param says, acquisition of Daivi Sampat and elimination of negative thoughts are called as Asuri Sampat. Acquisition, this samskara is required to offer ourselves unto the Lord, which is the ultimate stage of religious or spiritual life. Atman Vedanam is the ultimate stage of Navavida Bhakti, as mentioned in Narada Bhakti Sutras. Bhakta does not exist separate from the Lord. Dvaita Bhakti must culminate in Advaita Bhakti, in which Bhakta offers himself to the Lord. Now, the negative or sinful thoughts are sitting on the tree of the mind. They fly away when the name of the Lord is chanted, which is similar to clapping hands vigorously. Narada Bhakti Sutra says, Sarvada Sarvabhavena Nischintitaihi Bhagavan Eva Bhajaniya, meaning at all times, with every thought, without caring the world, worship the Lord alone. Bind the mind in the coordinates of time, space, and object, that is a particular time of the day, say Brahmi Muhurta, a specific place, say a puja room, and a specific object, say Ishta Devata or Kula Devata. This will be a great alambana or support to the mind. Now, what are the indications of spiritual attainment, spiritual refinement? The result of the upasana is the expression of 8 virtues called Ashtaguna, Ashta Atma Guna, as in a sadhaka. These render eligibility for Atma Nivedana Bhakti. The eightfold virtues are Dhyana, Daya, being sensitive towards others. Kshantihi is patience. The third virtue is Anasuya, not having jealousy. The fourth virtue is Shaucham, having purity of thought, word, and deed level. The next virtue is Ayasahinata, always enjoying doing any kind of actions. The sixth virtue is Akarpanyam, freedom from self-pity. The seventh virtue is Aspruhaka, freedom from the greed and attachment. The eighth and the last virtue is Mangalam. Here, the word Mangalam means a pleasant, endearing, and a cheerful personality. Daivi Sampat is conducive to self-knowledge, and Asuri Sampat is an obstacle to achieve the spiritual goal. After having meditated on positive thoughts and eliminating negative thoughts, one experiences patience, love, and compassion towards all the beings. Remember, thoughts are like bricks, which determine the shape of the building. If the shape of the building has to be changed, the brick arrangements has to be changed. The same applies to the mind. Mind is a powerful instrument with a tremendous sankalpa shakti. These type of meditations uses sankalpa shakti to attain the goal. It refines the mind, making it more positive and suitable for the self-inquiry. These meditations and Ashtanga Yoga will condition the mind to be healthy and Purushartha-vardhi. The conditioning of physical, verbal, mental personalities in unison is important. Spiritual progress is a teamwork of body, speech, and mind. Arjavam is teamwork of the personalities. Thus, conditioning these three individually and jointly as a team has to be taken care of. The strategy prescribed by the Shastra is Upasana Yoga. The Upasana for refining and offering oneself to the Lord is called Upasana Yoga. Nishkama Upasana is also called Upasana Yoga. When the lake is muddy or wavy, the bottom of the lake is not seen. And when the water is clear and still, the bottom of the lake can be seen. Exactly like that, when the mind is calm, what is beyond the mind shines forth. At other times, the witness conscious identifies with a disturbed mind and blocks realization. Regular practice of meditation would bring about a wonderfully disciplined mind and improve one's qualification for realization helps to acquire Samadhi Shatkam. Samadhi Shatka Sampatti is a basic requisite for Gnana Yoga, which is acquired through Ashtanga Yoga and Upasana Yoga. Samadhi Shatka Sampatti, or the inner wealth, is 6 in number. They are Shamaha, control of the mind, and thereby Damaha, the control of senses, is achieved. Increasing the attention span will help Uparatihi, that is continued calmness of the mind. That is, regular practice also helps Titiksha. Titiksha is developing tolerance to both internal and external obstacles, that is Tapatraya. They are Adhyatmika, bodily and mental pain, Adhi Bhautika, that is natural but incidental pains, Adhi Daivika, that is pains due to superhuman powers. Shraddha will be developed by Japa, and which is the Shraddha is the faith or trust in Guru or Shastra Vakya, which is developed by Japa. Ishtadevata Dhyanam helps in concentrating the mind, which is Samadhanam. Thus, we see these meditations helps a sadhaka to acquire sadhana sampattihi and prepares him to be an adhikari or for Gnana Yoga. Awareness of higher self enables sadhaka to remain unaffected by the external influences. He practices these forms of meditations, develops inner renunciation, and approaches a traditional guru. He practices Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. In due course of time, he becomes a Jivan Mukta. Later, when body is dropped, he becomes a Videha Mukta and liberated from the bondage of samsara or the cycle of birth and death. I pray God, may God bless all of us with devotion, knowledge, dispassion for worldliness, and may we all grow in spiritual life and be inspired by the lives of the great masters. I thank every one of you for your patience listening, and I would like to thank Ancient School of Wisdom for giving me an opportunity to present this talk. I thank Dr. Hegde for his guidance, encouragement, and support. Also, Swami Paramarthananda ji for the resources. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Any questions?
Shri
Any questions? Please put it in the chat box or raise your hand, and you can unmute yourself now and ask the question, and the faculty will clarify your doubts. Anybody? Any questions? Any clarifications? Please, you're free to ask.
Yes. The path defined by the...
Could you speak a little louder? We're not able to hear you.
The path defined by the speaker contains the Ashtanga Yoga. Now, there is another school of thought where the chakras are supposed to be made active for eligibility to moksha. What about that aspect?
That is called Kundalini Yoga, isn't it? The
That's right.
7 chakras of the body. From the Mooladhara, the life force or the pranic force is initiated. To reach the Sahasrara, it is in the Sahasrara is at the top of the head.
That's right. Is it complementary to what you have said, or is it a different field altogether?
No, it is a different school altogether, but it is almost the same. You know, this Ashtanga Yoga also helps us to control the breath. That is from the Mooladhara, you have to drive that force until the top of the head. Shiras.
Okay, that is through the Sushumna Nadi.
Sushumna Nadi, yes, that is what it is, yes.
But the Ashtanga Yoga, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, does not make a mention of it anywhere.
Yes, yes. And maybe it's a different school of, is more into ritualism.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think Dr. Hegde can enlighten on this more, if you could.
Yeah, that's another school which deals with various energies, where the whole technique is about elevating one's energy, as Mrs. Rama spoke, from Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agnya, and Sahasra. It is said that there is like a spinal cord with the Ida and Pingala on both sides, and there are like nerve plexus at different levels. And there are schools which tell you about various techniques, how to raise your energy at different levels. Now, that is a totally different school from the ones that we have been exposed to.
There also a guru's guidance is a must there. Otherwise, it will have a reverse effect, negative effect. That is also there. So one guru it has to be practiced under a proper guru.
It's very difficult to get a guru these days.
Yeah, that is true.
Where to get a guru?
No, if the student is prepared and
I've been
read,
searching for a guru.
no,
I've been
if
searching for a guru for long, but I haven't got it yet.
yeah, Dr. Hegde always says if the student is ready, the teacher will be a teacher will be there for him. Earnest,
That's true.
yeah,
That's
that is
true.
true.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any
I'd
more
like to know-
questions?
Yeah, Malti, I would like to know a little more about Triputi.
Yeah, Triputi is the triad of action, the act, and the actor. That is, for example, in meditation, the act is meditation, actor is the meditator, and the actor and the action. Action is meditation. There will be a dhyaya, that is, dhyaya vastu is the aim of this action, that is meditation, dhyaya vastu. This is triad. This triad becomes, excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are clear about it.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone
But-
else? All right, so then I think we can conclude. Thank you, Dr. Timappa Hegde, for facilitating this program. Thank you, Rama Gopalakrishna, for your very interesting and informative talks. The topics on Annapurneshwari, Upasana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, then the allegory of the chariot from the Bhagavad Gita, Kayakam, Vachikam, that is Vaktapas, and Manasam, and the different types of meditation were beautifully covered and very interesting. And I'm sure the participants enjoyed every moment of it. And now, on behalf of all the participants and the School of Ancient Wisdom, as well as the organizers, I thank you again.
Slide.
At this point, let me point out that the fourth part of the series will be on Wednesday, February 10th at 7 p.m. And this is a session by Dr. Anupama on Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So please, all of you, do join and make a note of this date. And we're hoping that you'll come in big numbers. Thank you again.
Thank you. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.